Bonjour! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Fasten up your seatbelt and enjoy this journey into Mia's world with Lamia Norbert. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of Me as Well. It's been a while. I know I have been MIA. It's been 2 weeks. I was back home, but I'm back in the studio. I needed a little bit of a break so I can prepare some beautiful podcasts like the one that we have today. So I have the beautiful Arooba with me. She is an e-commerce manager, but she's also a beautiful mother of an absolute little princess. And we're going to be diving into everything about how she started her e-commerce journey and how she's handling and juggling being a mother at the same time. So hi, Arooba.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you for making time for me. I know you have a lot on your plate at the moment, but you still managed to come here, and it's a lot.
Thank you.
So, Arooba, I have a little bit of a tradition with the beginning of a podcast recording.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I love to know a little bit more about my guest early years. Mm-hmm. So just tell me briefly, what were your early years and what brought you to Dubai?
That's a great question. So I am from Canada, originally born in Pakistan.
Okay.
My parents left Pakistan in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
So I was quite young.
Okay.
And lived there for about 25 years.
Okay.
I studied criminology.
No way.
I did.
Oh my God, I love that.
I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
And I was very much into the path of becoming anything related to legal, law, anything related to crime control. But I steered away from it because at the time it was around 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across two entrepreneurs in Toronto.
Okay.
And they inspired me at that time to get into e-commerce.
Okay.
And they were doing like a hair care extension company.
All right.
And they did very, very well. I met with them. They were just incredibly inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I tapped into web development at that time.
Okay.
And it completely blew my mind. I loved it.
All right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to graduate with criminology, but I'm definitely going into e-commerce. Like, it's something I would love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, my best friend and I would say now it's like 2013.
Yeah.
We imported acrylic makeup boxes from China.
Oh, wow.
We created a website on Shopify, 2013.
No way.
Yes. And then we also created a nail rack. It was an acrylic nail rack. We called it the Vanity & Co.
Okay.
We incorporated it. We created the logo.
No way.
Oh, it was amazing.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun. I went on Alibaba at the time.
Okay.
Found a supplier from Shenzhen, got all the details, and shipped it to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start marketing, we start creating, we send it off to influencers. And because at the time influencers had a lot more buying power for their consumers, we did really well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were interested in the vanity box because they saw it on the Kardashian show. So we were like, you can get it from the Vanity & Co. What we didn't realize was that the product was so heavy to ship that we were constrained to only shipping within Canada. It was a no-go. So then I took a little break, did some odd jobs here and there, and eventually still on the back of my mind, I'm like, no, I'm still going to go into e-commerce. I continued the e-commerce journey. I met another friend, and at the time she's and still is a really huge influencer.
Mm-hmm.
We connected and launched an eyelash business.
Okay.
So this time a little bit more strategic.
Yeah.
Very lightweight product, ships easily throughout the States. She had a lot of control over social media in terms of, she has over 10 million followers at the time, still does. Mm-hmm. And they loved what she had to put out. Mm-hmm. Put out the brand, amazing, did great, again on Shopify. But what also was challenging for that brand is we were so new in the game. Now it's like 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. We genuinely did not know how to manage it. We're like, how do we manage all the income coming in, the expenses going out? So we thought much bigger than we really were. We took a trip to China. We went and negotiated new prices. Like, we thought we were going to do really, really well. Mm-hmm. But what we didn't really understand was cash flow. And that you can't just dump a bunch of new inventory and money and then try to bring in newness without the cash flow that's still coming in through the inventory that exists and the marketing. Now it's about 2016 and something happened on Instagram that killed her business, but then also a lot of other businesses where they created paid media. Okay. Now you had to buy paid advertising through Meta and pay them to launch your business rather than these Instagram accounts that you could pay and push through. So they pushed them down, made, their platform the only platform you can purchase from. And so that obviously did not do well. Then we were also up against like Sephora brands that launched eyelashes. I mean, when Tarte launches an eyelash, you can't compete.
Exactly.
But I still remember we were a month and a half into the launch of her brand, and Sephora bought the product and shipped it to California. And I remember seeing some girl's Sephora.com email address, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a Sephora buyer. Our product is going to a Sephora office. But nobody contacted us. So it's okay. It was all a really big learning curve. But the amount of connections, influencers you meet, it was an amazing time. So after that situation, I then went into an actual e-commerce role within a company. So I got hired for Crate and Barrel. They do home goods, and they also own another brand called CB2.
Okay.
And they hired me to launch Crate and Barrel and CB2.ca at the time. Okay. So now it's around 2018. And since then, I was like, I'm going to go full on e-com. And what inspired me to come to Dubai at the time was obviously my partner at the time, also looking into Dubai. This is now 2021. Yeah. COVID, post-COVID, what your journey looks like. I think COVID for e-commerce, for people in general, changed absolutely everything. Your outlook, your needs, your desires. 100%. So I came here at a time, after a very difficult time as well, but I love Dubai. I was like, I'm coming back.
You fell in love right away.
I fell in love. I mean, not just, also because it's like -40 in Canada and it's +40 here. I just love that, Dubai is full of opportunity.
I agree. 100%.
To be honest.
I agree on that point.
Honestly, being Pakistani, carrying a Canadian passport, that's important here. But anyone that I've met, be it really anyone who has aspirations, who has an idea for a dream, you can plant that seed. Yep. It will take time. Now with saturation in the market, the demand, the amount of people coming in and out, obviously that impacts us, but there is an opportunity in Dubai.
I agree.
It's really nice to see that.
And this is something that I have kept telling people, because a lot of people told me, why are you still in Dubai? And I was like, because Dubai gave me hope.
Absolutely.
Every time I want to achieve something or do something, I feel like I have the support of the government, of the people, of everything. There is this, like for me, for example, when I was in London, it was really hard for me to even think about starting up a business because there's a lot of paperwork. Government is very strict and mainly if you're a startup, they're extremely strict compared to here. Yes, they are strict, but it's very straightforward,
Absolutely.
So
I think Dubai within the region of UAE, within the GCC, within the world is, everybody wants to be here for so many other reasons. So I had the privilege of actually being brought here by a company called Shilhoob, who hired me to launch and scale to me. So it's another brand. They sell a lot of luggages, handbags, more so in the menswear space, but they definitely have a lot of products for women. I did that for about 2.5 years. Okay. Then they onboarded another brand. It's a big French brand called Jacquemus. Okay. I did that too. And I learned so much. The privilege I had with respect to the company and also what the people here taught me. You have expats coming in from all over the 100%. World. And I find they're all young, they're hungry, they want to drive whatever that they're pushing, they want to learn, and they really push the needle in all aspects, team culture, strategy, performance. And I think the past 2.5 years, I've learned more than the past 10 years of e-com, I feel like, being just in this region. So that's what now I'm here for. So that's been my journey.
But it's beautiful. That's the reason why I always like to talk about the early years, because if you realize and you take a step back, you're like, oh, actually, your early years actually mark you as who you are today.
Absolutely.
If you've never started e-commerce, maybe you would never be an e-commerce manager today.
110%. Absolutely.
And then also all the learning that you've got through everything, you know?
Absolutely.
Stephen Bartlett is a great preacher to tell you that failure is part of the process. The more that you fail, the more you learn. Yeah. So this is a perfect example to what he preaches most of the time, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, I graduated in 2013 from university, and my first job, I mean, I just finished criminology. I wanted to become an entrepreneur, go into the e-com space. But my first job out of university was I was a receptionist at a huge accounting firm that was an hour and a half away from where my parents were.
Okay.
And I would take 3 buses and a train just to get there. Jesus. And literally earn so little. But the way that company taught me so much about how things run being at reception, because you'd have people who would take their breaks and they'll come want to chat with you. You're not really a threat to them because you're at reception.
Exactly.
So you would be their therapist and they would come and talk to you. But then you'd also be the ones putting all the mugs, you know, when they needed their coffee, they'd come chat with you there. Just learning their story, what they're doing in the company, how the company's running.
100%.
You start from the ground up and then you learn and you learn.
Exactly.
And the value that you learn from that is amazing.
I agree. Yeah. I feel like also, like you mentioned, like you get to learn about people's perspective about different thing and different aspect of the business world that, for example, as a manager, I can imagine, and I'm not blaming any manager. I'm just saying that as a manager, you have already a lot of responsibility. You have a lot of things to do. So it's hard for you to kind of take really precaution and make action on the small little things. But when you've been in that shoe and you're like, okay, all right, I remember this was something that some people were talking, you can now apply it from the beginning and then build a more solid foundation.
Absolutely.
You know, to kind of go ahead.
Oh, the things that you end up seeing within people, why they're acting a certain way, you start to connect the dots a little bit better. As you get up into any position, the most important thing is people management. Besides all the other little things that come up in entrepreneurship, what you learn from people is all different. Someone likes to talk more, maybe someone likes to listen more. Other people are morning people, that some people thrive at night, but they all somehow work for you. But as a manager, as a leader, how do you manage all these personalities? And I think from the earlier stages of working at the bottom of a company, you start to pick that up from people. How did he become CEO of this firm? You know, while someone else is doing something else, what's the different personality like? It all benefits into your career. Absolutely.
What would you say are the top 3 most important factor in an e-commerce business that are essential for the success of the business?
I think you need to be incredibly data-driven. Okay. And I know within e-commerce, now more than ever, there's saturation in almost every industry.
Yep.
So coming up with a newness is very hard. And so you need to understand why you're doing the thing, what passion you have, but then also how does that support you with all the data that you would be able to receive? And there are different tools out there that would be able to tell you if there's keywords, you know, are people searching for something that you want to put out? What is the data and what is it showing you? The second most important thing is understanding that no idea is a good idea. You might have, not every idea is a good idea. Okay. You might have an idea, you might really truly believe in it. It might actually really suck, but then the most important thing there is you need to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
Don't let that deter you from thinking, okay, I suck. I don't want to put this item out there. Like, I can tell you, Mia, I've probably now been in, I've just highlighted maybe a few industries for you. I have sold everything under the sun online. I have tried paper straws, like the adult industry products there. I've done like homeware, beauty. I mean, you name it. Like I've done so many things, but I've learned all these different aspects. So I think pivoting is going to be your number one key moment if something doesn't work out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The third most important thing is you cannot do it all. And it's hard because I feel like now in our culture as women, we do carry a lot on our shoulders. We have to wear so many different hats. And so you need to be able to delegate, but build that trust that's actually probably one of the bigger challenges in e-commerce, is building a team that you trust, even if it's remote work, even if it's someone you have part-time, but you need to be able to trust their work and know that they can offer and build your business and build it together in a way that's fruitful.
So what would you say for you, what makes you trust someone when it comes to delegating work?
I think before trust is a level of respect that they have for the vision.
Okay.
And so that respect can look like maybe ideas that they have that you didn't even ask for. So they have a hunger or maybe a spark that you didn't realize could happen. I've met people like that you can literally meet off of social media, who might be a videographer, for example, but they see things that maybe you're overlooking and they're more excited. So I think that's something you need to definitely look for in people.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. So let's deviate a little bit the subject, because you mentioned something that I really like. You said that us as women, we have different role in today's day and age. And I agree with you, because more and more women are becoming independent. We are working. We also have to be women, to be in our feminine energy, as we hear very, very often. We are mothers, we are sisters, we are daughters, and so many. So you've been a mother since how many months now?
9 months this week.
9 months.
Yeah.
So you're the mother of a beautiful little princess.
Yes, I know. No, it's 9 months this week, and you carry for 9-10 months.
Yeah.
And then she turned 9 months this week, and it was like, wow, I carried you for that long, and now you've hit that milestone. You sit there and wonder, like, how, first of all, did time fly? But then also, what did that time change for you?
Yeah.
Motherhood for any parent for a mother, obviously, is very challenging, and for a father, it's very challenging. It's not easy. It's very challenging. There are days where you have nothing to give, but you have to give.
Yeah.
And you have a completely empty cup, but somehow you're still pouring out. And that to me was like, wow. You come from a lifestyle where you have your morning routine, you have your evening routine, you have your time with your girlfriends on the weekend, you're going on dates. There's so many other priorities. And when you become a mom, you're like, wait, what was I focused on? Like, what was my problem? Because now your whole world completely shifted. I was listening to a really great podcast the other day, and there was a mom on the podcast, and she said, when a woman transitions into becoming a mom, it's actually, there's a term when you are becoming a teenager, you're in adolescence.
Yes.
In that weird stage of hormones, acne, all of that.
Yeah.
There's actually a term when a woman becomes a mother. There's a transitional stage called maternescence, something like that.
Oh, really?
And same with a father. And it's a new term. It's an old term that got buried in the books of, sociology. And she actually brought that out, where a woman, her brain chemistry changes completely when she becomes a mom, and her body, externally, internally, all of that shifts.
Yeah.
And it's just like when a child becomes an adolescent becomes adult, that transitional period is so hard. And so I would say motherhood definitely has its very ups and downs, for sure.
So let's go from the time when you were pregnant. So you found out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Did you have any expectation about pregnancy? Or because like very often I feel like, for me, who never had a child yet, but like I've seen two pictures. You have the picture of like the perfect pregnancy, you're glowing, and then just like that you give birth to your baby and everything is perfect. And then you have the other one, which I would say is a little bit more realistic, where it's not so fun at the beginning. You struggle a lot. You have to, like you said, kind of change your whole routine and readapt to the fact that you're basically growing a human being in your belly.
Yeah.
And afterwards being like, okay, now you are my baby. You're my soul. You're my everything. And I need to make things work for you.
Yes. So I don't know if you know, but this is my second pregnancy.
No.
Yes. I had a first pregnancy.
Okay.
At 2021. Mm-hmm. I was 5 months pregnant when I miscarried.
Oh, shit.
Yes. And I miscarried a baby boy and gave birth August 27th, 2021. And this was still COVID time. Mm-hmm. And that experience was extremely traumatizing.
I can imagine.
So the body, when it goes through the motions of a termination, you have no idea what's happening because it's your first pregnancy. You don't even know. But, when you hear about it in the movies, there's, things coming out and you're like looking down and you see a pool of blood and you're 5 months pregnant and you're like, what's going on? And there were things that were leading up to it, I'm sure, that caused the miscarriage in the body that I maybe didn't know. And so that experience was honestly awful. Because you give birth. You give birth to a stillborn. That too, alone in the hospital. It's COVID. No nurses, no doctors were coming in. You're not allowed painkillers at the time. I know. And so when you're going through the motions of contractions and having to give birth at the same time, I was lost. I was like, what is going on? I mean, the physical, emotional pain and then the mental pain that would come afterwards was absolutely very, very challenging. And right after is when I actually came to Dubai. So I feel like Dubai saved me in so many ways. But that was my first experience. Fast forward 2 years later, when I got pregnant, I'm like, okay, I've done this rodeo before. I know what to expect, but do I know how to get through the finish line? Will my body get through the finish line? That was probably in the back of my head all the time. You must have
been scared throughout the whole pregnancy.
I tried really not to be. Okay. I'm like, if I'm fearful, I wonder how that would impact the development of the baby and then also my experience. Because I get a second chance and not a lot of people get a second chance again. And this time I actually had a dream 3 months before I got pregnant that you are going to expect a baby girl. Yep.
No way.
And I remember looking at my partner at the time and I'm like, we're expecting a baby girl. Like I just had this beautiful dream of her face. But in the dream, it said it's coming, but not too early. Like it's going to come in some time. And 3 months later, 4 months later, actually, I got pregnant. But it was a beautiful dream. So I knew and I could connect the dots that this time it could look a lot different. I had a very manageable pregnancy. But in the back of my mind, the connections you have with your first experience, for whatever that looks like, it always sits with you. But I knew there's just going to be no way I'm going to allow myself, if I can, to have the birth experience I did the first time. So I'm going to do everything in my power, if God allows me, to birth through, normal. So what I did was, and I don't think you know this, no, but when my waters did break,
I know how it broke though. You told me the story about that.
Yeah. When my water broke, it broke not only once, but 3 times.
Yes, you mentioned that and I was shocked. I was like, I thought it broke only once.
Some women, it's one. Some women, it trickles. Others, it's like a floodgate.
No way.
Mine was like a floodgate on the highway at Al Kabail parking lot. I was like, oh my God. And like my mom was with me. So I drive myself back to JVC.
Jesus Christ, you drove?
I drove myself back.
While your water broke?
Water broke. And
Did you have contraction?
It was very little.
Okay.
Very, very little. And I could manage myself. But, everyone's freaking out. But I'm like, y'all got to stay calm. Don't freak out. As I'm in the elevator into the building, I can feel again a rush.
Yeah.
I run inside the apartment, second time. I'm like, what the? And hospital bags already, I'm like past 39 weeks. I go into the hospital. That was the biggest water breakage I've seen. I didn't know you could break your waters 3 times.
Yeah, me neither. I thought it was water? Like one time thing and then that's it.
I mean, how much water is up there? Damn. I was like, what the heck? But at that point, it was already around 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know this, but the moment your water breaks, you remember the time because some doctors have a cutoff for birth to prevent infections.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to do it epidural free.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You didn't do epidural?
I did not do epidural.
Jesus Christ, hats off to you, woman. You're a superwoman.
I mean, I was in labor for 21 hours without any painkiller, and I had the best experience. I felt so much positivity in the body every time I would get a contraction. It felt almost euphoric. And when they put me in the birthing room, they put me on the dilation and blah, blah, blah. So they're watching the contractions come in. And you'll notice some midwives are very pro painkiller. Some are very do what you need to do. I put on this beautiful soundtrack I created on Spotify. It was full of indigenous music, flute, birds, like forest. Like I really wanted to feel like I was with nature. And I asked my gynecologist, I said, please, can I go in the water? She said, no. I was like, fine, we'll just do what we need to do. I mean, my partner and I even had really beautiful moments where every time a contraction would come, I would ask him to like give me a hug, give me a kiss, and I could see the oxytocin push through and the contraction really go up, but it felt, Mia, amazing.
Really?
Felt amazing. And that's when I realized your mind and how you can manage that level 100%. Of energy that moves in.
I agree.
I remember watching a video months before of a woman who had given birth through the vaginal experience. She said, I don't look at it as pain. I look at it as energy moving. And I'm like, that's it. I'm literally going to look at it as energy moving through me, not against me. And that is what led me to continue. So now I'm 12 hours past my water breakage, and the doctors are a little bit like, your cervix is still not really moving. The baby could really just be chilling in there. So you need to the cervix needs to open to 10 centimeters, but your body needs to contract in and out for you to be able to give birth.
Yeah.
Now, I am contracting like 8 a minute, 9 a minute. I'm going in and out, but I'm pretty shut tight. And 12 hours go to 18 hours. Now the doctors are like, okay, the only reason we're going to let you go for more is literally because your daughter and you have a really normal heart rate.
Okay.
Maybe I meditated too hard. I think I chilled out too much where she was like, I'm not coming out. I'm so chill. And due to the timing and the cervix still being shut pretty closed, they said, you got to do a C-section. Yep. Okay. So all of that, but that's okay. I mean, I think it was out of my control. Yeah, I did what I could. 100%. And she came in through a very medicated, medical way, but it's for the safety of me.
Of course, and the baby as well. The baby. And then, I mean, freaking out 18 hours with no epidural. Jesus Christ. You're like what I call a superwoman. Oh, bless you. You know that. I have always said I have so much admiration for mothers because it's not easy to give birth. Like a lot of people think, oh no. And I said, no, I don't know what it is, but I can imagine what they must go through. And for that, my respect are to you.
Oh, bless you.
And now you have a daughter, a beautiful, literally your mini twin. Like whenever I see a picture of her, I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's the mother.
Copy paste.
Sorry, Dad. But it is the copy paste of the mother. So now you have a beautiful daughter of 9 months. And while you're having the baby, you're also working, right? How do you manage that?
I ask myself that question every day. How do you manage that? It's very challenging. When you become a mother, your previous identity that you held onto is completely gone. That morning routine, that coffee break, gone. Like whatever you did for yourself, because it's changed. It's not the same.
Yeah.
So you go through a huge identity shift. So not only are you going through a huge identity shift, you're going through a huge relationship shift. The way you look at work, the way you look at friendships, the way you look at your own parents, all of that completely shifts. It takes a lot of time. What I found to be very challenging is maternity leave in Dubai is 3 or 6 months.
Okay.
Whilst in other countries, it can go up to 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's
Although
true.
the pay would be very little, but you have a lot more time to transition.
Yes.
Now, my company was 3.
Mm-hmm.
3 months is a very short amount of time.
100%. The baby's still like a newborn.
Pretty much. I mean, a baby is technically newborn until 8 weeks. What is that? 2 months?
Yeah.
So, but as soon as you get into your 3rd month, I mean, they flip on you. So now you need to juggle going back to work. That was definitely very difficult. If you have the luxury of staying home while partner supports or whatever you have, I mean, take it. You need time because it's not just about taking care of your little one, but it's finding your identity again.
Exactly.
It's so new. Yeah. Did
you I've heard a lot about, maybe I might not get the right term, but I've seen a lot of podcasts and people talking even on social media. I've seen influencers who gave birth to kids, and they talk about the post-pregnancy blues. It's like a depression that you have, basically.
Yep.
The blues that you have after pregnancy. Is that true?
Absolutely. I think that also has a lot to do with how your body manages your hormones, because those postpartum depressive blues have a lot to do with the chemical imbalance in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a very medical birth like me, the intensity of the medicine that they give you, the highs and then the drop after, oh my goodness. I mean,
what would trigger you? Like, what are the things that would trigger the...
Absolutely anything.
Really?
I swear to you, the first bath time, I was crying. Tears of water literally felt like a bucket coming out of my eyes because my mom didn't know the difference between a muslin cloth and a baby towel. I cried. I'm like, how do you not know the difference? I cried. She's like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know. Like, literally, and my whole t-shirt's wet with tears. Like, why don't you know the difference? It's so important. Just like, it's literally a towel. Like, just pat her dry. It's like anything. And I think it has so much to do with the medicine and all the painkillers. And, you know, a lot of women don't know this. Once you have a C-section, you give yourself injections in the thighs for 10, 11 days to prevent blood clots. You're taking intense paracetamol, painkillers, back painkillers. Because, yeah, it's all of that mixed in with your hormones changing. It's not easy at all. But thank God for medicine, of course. I mean, it's helped so many people. It's just all of that really makes you absolutely challenging to not only be with your partner, but also manage. Give yourself some time to kind of get out of that chapter. Mm-hmm. For a lot of women, though, it stays for a long time.
Yeah.
For months.
Even years. Like at least a year. I've seen one person who at least had it for a year.
Yes. And it's very hard. Not I mean, on everybody else, but mostly on her.
Of course. How
is she going to shape her identity and find her newness again when she's feeling so low and depressed and sad? And I think that also adds into the loss of the identity. And when I was pregnant, I didn't understand birth and all of that afterwards. I remember telling my girlfriends who were pregnant, I'm like, you know what I see when I've seen moms give birth? I'll see their WhatsApp photos or like their Facebook photos switch to an old photo of them.
Really?
And I always found that so interesting. Why would, like, don't you want to post you and your baby? And it was a judgmental part of me, but now I understand because you miss that
who you were before.
Yeah, you miss her. You miss who she was in so many ways, but then you come to terms with the fact that she's now changed a lot. So, yeah.
And once you're going through that phase, that blues, that I don't really know the exact term of it.
Postpartum depression.
That's the word. Mm-hmm. And it was right. I did say it right.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yeah. I was like,
no, I think you said postpartum. You're dead.
I blame the French in me. Anyway, But what I want to know is, now when you're going through this, how do you handle your relationship with your partner?
I'm not the best. I did not handle it well. I'll be the first one to say it. I mean, I think, oh my goodness, they have needs too.
Yeah, of course.
How do you get to their needs? You can't, because you can't even go to the bathroom. Like, you have your own needs, and then you have a baby that's, they need so much. So how do you manage that in a relationship? Some relationships, I think, with time do so much better, and some really don't. One thing I know for sure is that having a baby doesn't fix a marriage. It only reveals it.
Okay.
And that revelation will help you manage either it being a very challenging postpartum experience or it only gets better.
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, I had a very challenging postpartum experience, and it did lead us to have really deeper conversations and figure out what we need to do to separate, because it was not working. And so that led to her being 5 months, and we had to, unfortunately, move into different directions. Now, months later, when she's 9, we now have the conversations of what does co-parenting and giving her an example of a proactive divorced parents. It's not a positive experience, so I'll take that term out. But what does a proactive divorce experience look like now for a baby and for a girl who's going to be so attached to her father? I don't want her to have father wounds. I mean, every divorced,
I can completely relate to what you're saying right now, because obviously when you mentioned that to me, it kind of brought me back to childhood very quickly, because I am from a separated and divorced parent. My parents got divorced, at least separated when I was very young. I was maybe 2 years old. If you ask me, I don't even recall how I moved to Mauritius with my mom, but I do have memories of us in a new house. And as we were talking off camera earlier, and this is something that I always say about me and my experiences, when you're a kid, you don't really understand what's happening, obviously, because now circumstances are very different with nowadays generation, like, for example, for me, my dad didn't have the facility of coming and stay and make time with me. He was working, he was trying to work on his business at the same time to kind of give us security and provide for us as well. And that meant that I would see him once a year for a day, and that would have been for my birthday, until he started slowly to build up his business and make a little bit of money, and finally he was able to go on trips with me and my mom. And then suddenly I realized, I think it was for my 7 years old birthday, my dad surprised us with a trip to Paris. Absolutely normal. My mom and my dad with me, we do everything together. We're all of us in one room. Like, it is a bit disturbing for a kid, because you're like, hold on a minute, how come now you're together, and then after a couple of days, you're gonna go back to Madagascar, and I'm going back with mom. Like, it's not very like, even though they didn't make me feel it, but it disturbed you.
Yes.
And I think as a kid, I didn't really realize that it disturbed me until I started to grow up. And then, little things when I would go back to Madagascar and see some certain things. And I think I started to be a little bit rebellious with my dad. And then, which led, honestly, during my teenage years, there was years where I would not speak to my dad and I would only speak to my mom. And then there was years where it was vice versa. But the fact that we were in 2 different countries and I didn't get the time to process and understand. Like, for example, if I had a parent-teacher meeting at school, I always ask myself, like, why am I not going for these? I never went to one. I only went to one once, and that was with my uncles. My mom was shy. She never wanted to, kind of be in... She's a very introverted person, even though she's very kind, but she doesn't like to mix and mingle with a lot of people. So that was, like she said, straight no. my dad obviously was not here. So most of my meetings were like just me and meeting my teacher, which was a bit pointless because what are they going to tell me, you know?
Yeah.
But all in all all I can tell you is that today when I look back, even though, yes, it was challenging time and I think it did affect me big time, and it affected me with my relationship with man. That's another reason why I want to be single for now until I meet someone that is I have certain requirements in my future husband. So, but at the same time, I know I have to do some work on myself. So it was a choice for me to be single until I was sure that I was ready to be in a relationship, you know?
Absolutely.
I needed that break and be like, you know what? You actually need to not be in a relationship. You need to fix what's broken from inside and kind of build back everything and understand that at the end of the day, it's not your parents' fault. And today, I look at it and I'm like, I have no hate. And even me, I told you, I landed this morning after being I was in Madagascar and Mauritius. And it was such a beautiful trip because even though I went back home 2 years ago, there's a lot of things I didn't understand like now, because from 2 years ago to now, I've done a lot of work on myself. And when I actually went home and seen things in a very different perspective, that is someone who's healing, not healed, but who's healing, who's done the work, and who actually sees things in a very different manner, I was able to forgive to both my mom and my dad. And this is something that I can now say. And that's the reason why I cried when I said goodbye to them. And I was like, obviously you cry because you miss them. You're going to miss them. You're not going to see them. But realizing that all this hate and all this anger I had for both of them, because as a kid, you don't understand things. But then now that I am 28 years old, I am able to understand why was that happening. And I was able to also, the most important thing, I think, being from, obviously, a divorced parent, is as a kid, I had to set boundaries with my parents because they were people that suffered as well. Yeah. The same way I suffered, they also have their own past that is, you know, a generation thing.
Absolutely.
And it was knowing and telling them in a very respectful way that I don't want to know why you broke up. Don't want to know why you're not speaking to mom or why you're not speaking to dad. I was a kid. I didn't understand that. All I care about is that you love me and I love you, and that I will forever be your kid and I got you, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care about what happened. I don't want to know. You know, as a kid, I always had that question, like I wanted to know the why. I wanted to know, why couldn't I have a normal family, you know?
Yeah.
And today I'm in a position where I'm like, I don't want to know why. It's none of my concern. What is it going to do? It's going to hurt me more.
Absolutely. You just come to terms with the fact that that was how your brought up is.
Exactly.
And it's the best thing that your parents could do for themselves and for you at the time. I wonder though, how much your parents being that generation after, I'm sure their parents coming from a nuclear family.
Yeah.
How they didn't have the tools to navigate divorce and
100%,
co-parenting.
100%.
Right?
You know, like when I see things now and I see things like before, it's two different complete worlds.
Yeah.
You know, you come from a place where obviously you come from a community. You come from a place where people know you. There's like very old school ways of going through things where today all of this doesn't really impact people's life anymore. You know, it's like your choice, you know. Before, absolutely. I know that in our community, obviously because my dad's Muslim, or even in my mom because she's also Catholic, when you were divorced, it was a shame on the family. Yep. And I know that this is how their family perceived them at that time. But today, it's normal.
Yeah.
You got to do it for your own sake.
Absolutely.
You know?
This is now on us though, being, that young generation, coming from families and households that were either nuclear but traumatic, or divorced but manageable, but in a different way.
Yeah.
How do we then take that information and build a new set of, children who we've now learned from another generation that messed it up? So how do we now change that for this new generation?
Yeah.
Because divorce, separation, all of that will continue happening for the rest of our lives. It's been happening forever.
100%.
But how do we manage it? That is something I think about every day. How do I mitigate that part for my daughter, where she's now going to grow up into a household where, majority of the time will be with the mother, but the father also comes in, spends the quality time, shows up with the mother in specific moments that are really important for the daughter, but then goes to their separate homes. Now, going back to your childhood, do you feel like it would have been nice to have a sit down at an age that they could explain rather than you to just expect?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think one thing that I lacked a lot, and today I was able to have these conversations with my parents just now when I was back home, and I feel like I needed to have this conversation and tell them how I felt.
Yeah.
And telling them that I'm speaking up not because I'm being rebellious, not because I'm trying to find an argument, because I just need to tell you what is on my heart. And then understand. One thing also is understanding their perspective. Is, before it was just my idea. But being able to actually sit down with both of them in a very different context, because obviously my dad's in Madagascar and my mom's in Mauritius, but like having that moment and talking to them was the most crucial thing. And understand that they are not perfect and they are not meant to be perfect. And I cannot hate them for that because I am not perfect myself,
Yeah.
And yes, I would say yes. A conversation.
Yes.
Once your daughter is at an age that she would understand what life is all about.
Yeah.
Is very crucial.
Absolutely. That's the thing that I think about now literally every day as she's just a baby is, how do we allow a more, not, I wouldn't say again positive, but a proactive parenting style to tell her that divorce doesn't need to look like a really bad thing.
Exactly. 100%.
And it can look very proactive and productive, because now you have two happy people apart than two miserable people
100%,
together.
100%.
Because now if I go back or he comes back, she's just going to be in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's then going to result in other types of challenges she's going to deal with. So I have to kind of pick a challenge. Do I want one or the other?
I honestly would tell you something that I wish I never experienced, but obviously it is what it is, and it is what made me today. Is I wish my parents never talk about the other one in front of me.
Amen.
Or had arguments in front of me, because obviously that disturbed me a lot, because I didn't know whose fault till now. I don't know whose fault it was and why is the why. But I just made peace that I don't want to know the why, because when I sat down with my thoughts and I said, okay, what will happen if I actually find out the why? Is it going to change something to my life?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It might even make more damage to my life.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he's my father, she's my mother, and I love them. And that's all that matters. And today, despite everything, I'm so grateful for my childhood. Like, I feel like I'm even lucky. And I don't see it as a challenge anymore, like how I used to see it. Now I see it as I'm lucky because I get to visit 2 countries. I get to have 2 gifts for my birthday, for Christmas, for everything. I get to talk about certain things to one parent. For example, my boyfriend's stories, I would go mostly to my mom because she's my best friend and she's a woman I look at. Like, we were talking about being a single mother, and she has been a single mother because she raised me ever since I was 2 years old. And obviously with my dad supporting us financially, but he was not present. So she had to kind of do the mom and dad job throughout. So I have a lot of inspiration, and I'm really proud of my mother. And then at the same time talking about other things with my dad, for example, about businesses, because he's an incredible businessman, and I admire his way of starting. He was doing the bins. My dad was someone who was doing the bins and then built up a beautiful company today.
Mm-hmm.
And despite all the challenges, he's still there. He's still holding up the empire very, very high.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned a lot. But now I'm able to kind of shift the conversation. Like, this is the first time in my entire life I had a relationship conversation with my dad, where I told him how I felt about what I'm expecting in a man and why I'm not married yet and why I want to take time to find the right man, and explaining why I'm not with that man that he thinks I should be with. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. It's, all the lost time, I think that was had, you've now had it. And from here, you can then just take it forward rather than continuously, like you said, what is it going to do to bring 100%. Me back? That brings me into another thought too, is your dad is a great parent to you in his own way, but maybe just not a good partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so that's something to think about too.
And like I said, we're not perfect.
No.
And I think we need to make peace with that. Yeah. We have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. And this is it.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone perfect, because even the most perfect person have a flaw. And this is what makes us human.
That brings you into question, like, do nuclear families, are they the end all be all then for children too? Because some children do get brought up into nuclear families that they see the parents come home, but they also have a lot of challenges that they deal with for 100%. The rest of their lives.
Exactly.
So it's like life is just a real big challenge. You just have to be better at managing it.
Exactly.
So I know for a fact that I do put boundaries in the sense where, her dad needs to see her every day. She needs to still build a relationship with him. She needs to respect him. She needs to trust him. There will come a time when to have a conversation with her, but it's like, when is that question going to come up?
Yeah.
But then also guide her into a space where she doesn't have to look at divorce and two parents being separated as a very negative thing.
Oh, completely.
Because the last thing I want is that father wound to run deep in her body.
100%.
For her to hate. And then for her, I've been there, done that. Like, I don't want that for her. So how do we mitigate that? That's going to be the biggest thing.
And I think that today you have so many tools in front of you.
Yeah.
That helps you to kind of like, for example, I said to my dad, he has a lot of, he had a lift accident that has impacted his mental health big time and till today. And I told him, I was like, Dad, you need to look into your mental health, For an old school kind of man, he's like, what are you talking about? But for us, we have the tools to kind of, that's the reason why I wanted to heal, because I knew that if I was not healing, it would have been a vicious circle for my future kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's breaking that for your children.
Exactly.
That's why I was talking to my mom about it the other day. I said, if there's anything I can help Sophia with, because my mom, she was like, why do you want to travel with her? She's, actually, I don't know if you know, but in June, she was 6.5 months. I took her to Phuket.
No way.
Me and mommy baby trip.
How was that?
It was amazing. Every person out there was like, what are you doing? Why are you traveling with a baby alone? Are you okay? And I'm like, I need to get away. Her and I were just going to have a great time, as a great time looks like with a baby, and just be in a new environment. So I took her to Phuket. It was amazing. And I had the best time with her. And she loved it. And I told my mom, I'm like, if there's anything I can now help her with her healing journey from now, is have her travel.
100%.
Is make her move.
Exactly.
I don't want to create instability and be like, we're moving all the time, but have her enjoy the world from an early age with mommy, because I want to show her the world, and I want her to show that travel will heal her and places will heal her more than anything else. And that's something I found in my journey. So Yeah, I took her at 6.5 months to Phuket. I'm going to make a little like table book of every city we go to. I'm going to make a little table book of pictures. I have my next one coming up in December with her.
Where are you guys going?
Bali.
Oh, you're going to love Bali. I want to
go to Bali.
You're going to love Bali. We went there with the girls. My God, one of the best trip of my life. I swear to God, this place is so peaceful.
Isn't it? It looks majestic.
It's I love this place.
Yeah, it looks majestic.
Love. There's this trip and Thailand. Obviously, Thailand. I recently did Thailand and I loved every single second of this trip.
Love Thailand.
Love it.
I love that part of the world. It's so different too.
I know, right?
So different. But that's something my mom was saying, like, why? Again, a generation that doesn't really understand.
Exactly.
But yeah, I know it's thinking about that healing journey for her early on, but being that grounding rock. I watched It Ends With Us on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a very good movie. I liked it. There's a lot of criticism right now on social media and such, but it's about a mother who divorces her husband due to a lot of reasons. But it's the day she gives birth and she tells her baby girl it ends, like the cycle of abuse, trauma that she was going through. It ends with her because she doesn't want that for her. It's a book actually by Colleen Hoover.
Okay, I'm gonna
apparently the book is very, very much on domestic violence versus like this rom-com movie that kind of came out. But it's a nice film, but it's very inspiring too to be that person for your baby and show them what healing could look like after you've gone through a couple of fairly damaging things.
That I can imagine. But would you be comfortable her going with her dad on a trip?
I think if we went together, I think that could look nice for her. I wonder though in the future, how could that impact her too, where we'd have to have that conversation. Like he's in a different space even there.
Yeah.
So I think that would be interesting to navigate maybe when she's a little bit older.
Yeah.
You know?
And now that you are being a single mom, how do you see yourself as also a working mom?
It's very hard, Mia. It's very hard. I mean, here as a mother, as a single mom, it looks very different as a single mom in Madagascar.
100%.
In Canada,
100%.
You have the luxury of having nannies here that can help, nurses here that can come to your house. Obviously, you need to have a specific level of income to afford it.
Yeah.
Yet that level of privilege I could never experience as a single mom in Canada. So I know being a single mom here looks really different.
Mm-hmm.
So I accept that narrative a lot better so I can manage it. Going back to work full time, I recently got a new job that I'm starting in a couple of weeks. But I told them, because your company is not hybrid enough, I mean, they have 2 days a month where you could work from home.
Okay.
I said, I need at least 1 day because right now it's really still all about my baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to go into the details of like, this is why I'm a single mom. I need this type of flexibility. And they were super open to it. They were like, absolutely, you can. If you need more, we can negotiate once you start. Yet that flexibility as a working mom in any company is extremely important. If you need to leave to do their bedtime, you know, if you need to work from home because they're not feeling well. I mean, she's 9 months and I spent the last 2.5 months still doing 2 night shifts.
Oh,
1 a.m. and 4 a.m. Some days it was 3 a.m. only. So how do you manage that going into work the next morning? 100%. It's impossible. And you're the only one doing it.
Yeah.
So it's all on you. And so flexibility at a job is really the most important key to success. Yeah, that would be the most important thing.
But your priority stays your baby daughter.
Of course.
Your baby girl.
Everything. I mean, it gives me chills. Like the way your priority shifts in life after, again, you become a mother, the little things you were upset about or things that bothered you. I mean, I don't even remember what they are.
Yeah.
They're just poof, gone. You just think about so many different things. And then it also impacts your relationship with your girlfriends too. The ones who have kids, the ones that don't, the ones, you know, that could look very different from the community you start to build. Coming into Dubai, I noticed one of the biggest challenges for women, for example, you came in single, alone, is building a community.
100%.
It's really hard. First of all, it's the desert. So it's dry as F here. So the community, it's really hard to make friends here in a desert. But
I agree.
It's once you build that community, you hold on so tight because they become your grounding rock.
I agree.
Then you become a mom. And then the girlfriends that go, out at night, they're no longer able to cater to your needs because you're so in a different world. Then how do you rebuild that community again? So yeah, it's definitely worth it once it takes place though, because I find that the expat community here is just amazing. Once you find them,
that's true.
They're an amazing group of people.
I agree, and I always said the reason for me still being here is part of all the communities I've been lucky to be part of, you know? They are the driving force of me still being here, of making me enjoying every minute that I am here, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. So, I have a tradition. I don't know if I told you.
No.
Maybe I didn't tell you. But just before I head to my tradition, any advice that you have for any working mother, single mother out there, based on your experience, based on everything that you've been through, like as working in the e-commerce industry and as being a mother of motherhood, and give me 3 advice that you would give to any woman listening to us right now?
It's going to be really hard, but make time for yourself. Even if it's 15, 30 minutes a day where you can find a time to go walk outside when the weather persists for it. If you can find a moment to meditate, whatever fills your cup, try your very best to find that time.
Okay.
Don't doom scroll on TikTok, on Mom Talk, on Entrepreneur Talk.
Yeah.
Try not to numb yourself.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing because you're so exhausted. The only thing you can try to do is not numb yourself with television, alcohol, food. I don't know what it is that people like to do, but try your hardest to fill that cup up again. I think that would be my number one advice, because you feeling better the next day helps whomever you're taking care of feel better too, you know? And so that's my number one. My second, I would say, most important thing is be gentle. Be gentle on yourself. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon of life. If you don't bounce to a certain weight postpartum, if you don't look a certain way postpartum, if you're not ABCD, it's okay. It will form. It will change. Just allow that time. I mean, they say that it takes a woman 2 years after giving birth to feel like herself. And you're 1 full year pregnant, then you give birth, and then you spend another full year. And then by the end of that year is when you really start life. So be gentle on yourself and let it flow. I think probably for girlies that are very productive, very list oriented, love routines, it's probably really hard for them because you are just thrown upside down and you're like, I got no routine. So I say be gentle on yourself. And the third thing is the relationships you build with your girlfriends and your friends, guy friends, nurture them. Your friends, they will show up for you in the worst time of your life because those are the relationships you've nurtured. Continue those relationships. Talk to them. Send the podcast voice notes. Let them listen to it at 2x speed. Yeah. Just do it. Like, continue building those relationships. After I gave birth, all the friends I had, my guy friends and my girlfriends, I stayed in touch with, had them over, like tried my best to talk to them, have them talk to me. It was the most important thing. So friendships for sure is what gets you through the really hard times.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. You're truly inspiring to me. And like I listen and I'm like, I'm literally like listening to every word that you say because I'm like, okay, take down. You will need all of that in the future. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
So nice.
And honestly, I love your story and really inspirational. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
It's not the end yet. I got a little surprise for you.
Oh.
So I have a little tradition because obviously, you know, when we go through topics, we have like how do we say that? We go into very like deep conversation. Rapid fire question are just to kind of break the ice just before the end and just have a little bit of a laugh.
Fun.
All right, ready? It's very fun. There are some very easy ones and some a little bit deeper questions, but they're fun.
Great. Let's start.
Right. Early bird or night owl?
Definitely early bird.
Forest or sea?
I'm going to do sea.
Really?
Yeah. Used to be forest. Now it's
exactly. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I'm just losing my questions. Where is it? Okay. Where is it? Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
All right. Let's go into a little bit deep. If you could leave anywhere, where would it be?
Costa Rica.
Really?
Take me back tomorrow. I'll go.
No way.
I lived there for 6 months.
Oh, really?
I lived there for 6 months of my life with my dog in the middle of a town that had 5,000 people up in the mountains, in the clouds, in the forest we were. Till today, I think about going back.
Going back there.
Yeah, and living there. Although now I think it's changed some things, but yeah, Costa Rica.
What has been your favorite age so far?
Now.
Okay.
I turned 33 on September 12th. This has been by far my favorite age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. If you had any superpower, which one would it be and why?
I would probably love to time travel.
Okay.
That would
be
that one. Sick. I think that would be so cool to see where we come from, who our ancestors are, why we are the way we are. Can I go forward in life too? I don't know. So that time travel would be really interesting.
Okay. All right. My last question and my favorite question of all. If you could give one advice to your younger self, which one would it be?
Oh. It's going to be okay. Hang in there. You're going to get through the really dark times, really harsh realities, but just hang in there. It's going to get better. But let the universe know that. Believe in yourself. It'll get there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arooba. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful.
This was so fun.
You loved it?
I loved it.
All right. You want to do a remix soon?
1 year from now?
1 year from now. All right. I'll mark your words. It is on live camera, so you cannot say no.
Co-parenting sucks. F this. I'm out of here. I'm going to Costa Rica.
Let's do a part 2, definitely. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much, Mia, for having me. What you're doing is amazing, and I wish you the best of success and luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On this note, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.